Bro, how you been? Good. Yeah, very good. Man, it's been ages. What, 3 months? Yeah, I haven't seen you since China. Yeah, still going ahead with the cutlery and it's going well. We're getting there now, yeah. But geez, I came back from the Canton Fair thinking the hard part was done, only to realise I'm probably 30% of the way there. But I don't really know what I was expecting, to be honest. I honestly didn't know the whole process and everything like that, I guess. But I took that fast-paced work ethic from China and just sort of got on with it, getting straight into supply quotes and everything like that. Yeah, and how's this? I remember when I was getting cooked with those massive MOQs of like 10,000 and everything. So I didn't really know, but you continued the negotiations after. So I was there on WeChat speaking with them and getting quotes in here and there, and the like MOQs were changing everywhere. And the MOQ halved on one of them, and then from there it thirded through an SKU share, which was honestly the biggest win. What that is like sharing, instead of getting 5,000 forks, spoons and knives, just getting 5,000 units in total and splitting the SKUs up in that order. I'm not sure if people do that, but it worked out for me, and it was something that's really made this whole process way easier. But at the same time, I was completely lacking behind on the branding and the marketing side of things. Like, I hadn't even thought about it. Yeah, I started to spend a bit more time on sharpening the positioning and even pursuing the secondary use case, which everyone speaks about. Everyone who I talk to about this says it could be used for a secondary market of people. So we ended up exploring a bit deeper into that secondary market of people with neurological challenges who needed something easy to grip, and their hands were getting a bit weaker, and just the muscles in general. And yeah, they do exist. They all do exist, but everything that they have right now looks like it looks like baby food equipment and stuff like that, and it's very infantilizing. Whereas you look at our cutlery and it's a bit more empowering, since it's like you're lifting weights rather than using baby food. Absolutely nothing has come of that yet. I met with a few OTs. They said it could for sure work out, which is great. But I just think, it's best to just focus on primary market, being the gym bros, getting that into their hands so they can work out while they eat and, show off their gym bro status and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's just too much for the first part of the launch, and it leaves something to pursue after the launch. As I started to get deeper into the whole thing, new terms started coming at me and I had no idea, and it was like pressure of the moment. Had to pretend, exactly like in my videos in the Canton Fair. Like, I had to pretend like I knew what I was doing. Stuff like FOB, and QC, all those terms started popping up. But what I learned from that is just not to rush, take everything slow. I get overwhelmed with stuff like that, so I just thought, stop trying to rush it, stop trying to be efficient and quick, just take it slow and you'll get there. Oh, you know what the worst part was though, was when my supplier came to me with the quote that I was very happy with. The MOQ was perfect, the pricing looked great, everything like that. But of course there just had to be one thing, which was the damn metal was 420 stainless steel instead of 304. That's a massive problem, because we don't want it sort of rusting. We don't want it to be any worse quality than the top notch. We really had to work around that problem. And to be honest, it was 2 days of anxious silence where I was just sitting there hoping that they'd say yes, because they initially said no, but then they said, hang on, let me get back to you. And then they eventually came back saying they could do full 304 food grade stainless. It was just felt like the final small struggle. Obviously it wasn't, a lot still had to come, but that was like the biggest hump that we overcame. No, but you know what the weirdest part of this whole thing was, and the most unexpected silent killer, was the weight of the product. Obviously the weight, them being half a kilo each, that's like their whole feature. So we couldn't really get rid of it, but the shipping, it made shipping so complicated. The shipping a heavy object just shoots them through the roof. And one of the things, I learned when I first started doing this stuff is everyone hates shipping, and it's like, you got to do free shipping. And that was something that I'm like, we got to do. I had to explore so many different options. Initially, I was thinking fulfillment from my house, from my bedroom. You should check how expensive it is to send something from Geelong all the way up to the US, and it being that heavy destroys your margins. So I was lucky that I found a few more options. The next was like a 3PL, like third-party logistic company in Geelong or in Australia. So I could bring them all over and then they send them out for me straight to my customers. But even then, you had to pay the export fees and all the taxes upon declaration and everything like that. And then still it was expensive, obviously, because it's from the same spot. I came across a few 3PLs in China, which means I can just get them straight there. I don't need to worry about shipping them over here. It just goes straight into a warehouse in China, and then they ship it out straight to my customers for me at a much cheaper price, just because they're, obviously exporting a bunch out of China. So I get to sort of ride the wave of all of those ones. Obviously the weight still matters, but it means the margins were still healthy, and I'll be able to, absorb the hit and give the customers free shipping, which is exactly what I needed. It's funny because I keep thinking of new sort of problems I had along the way. It was just ridiculous. Like this whole thing has been the biggest roller coaster. I haven't had like a single, you could say, easy task, because next was like packaging, obviously. From day one, I thought, I'm gonna have the Apple packaging, and the Apple packaging everyone loves. And essentially I wanted the premium brand, and the premium brand comes with the type packaging and all that stuff. But I also wanted it eco-friendly, just because that adds to the premium side of the brand. So it was like all these different things adding to the premium status of the brand. But eco-friendly was borderline impossible for my startup. I was initially thinking foam, which would be great. It'd look good, it'd protect the cutlery and anything else, it's just a perfect match. But obviously foam's not recyclable. It's only recyclable under certain industrial level conditions, which not many local recycling plants have access to. So in other words, it's just going to go straight into landfill. The one and only sort of viable thing was like molded pulp, which is what Apple use. And then I got a few quotes for that, and it was like $3,500 US just for a pulp mold for the 3 pieces of cutlery. And obviously, that can be amortized over the order quantity, but my order was just, it's not enough to make that investment even worth it. We got around it by just going with the foam for now, and then eventually we will invest into that eco-friendly molded pulp, just to make again this startup just as lean as possible, because again, we haven't even done any tests to know if this is going to work. But to be honest, that sort of adds the fun to it. And you know what? Everyone's like, momentum's key when you're starting up a business. I have not been able to get a single ounce of, proper momentum with this whole thing. And it's not because I haven't been working properly. Like, I've been working a fair amount, but it's because everything was completely gridlocked. Doing the packaging was dependent on me figuring out the brand colors, and then that was dependent on this other thing that I hadn't even started yet. So many times I found myself thinking, I can't do this until that's done, but I can't do that because I'm waiting on a quote. So it was extremely frustrating, but I just treated it like pushing 3 trolleys up a steep hill. You just take every one at a time, because if you let one go, then it's just going to ruin the whole thing. But if you push them up slowly, and you'll eventually get up there with all 3, which we did in the end. But then it came to my margins, and then this was completely unexpected, because I didn't even think for once that this product wouldn't be profitable, just because I only used to think in the cost of goods sold sort of thing, like how much the packaging was and how much the actual product was. Little did I ever think about that there's other stuff like foreign exchange fees, credit card fees, pick and pack, stuff like that, even like quality check fees, all contribute and start eating up your margins. I built the margins up just to test them, and luckily we were actually all good, because if I found that this was not profitable and we had to increase the prices way high, then that just would have killed me essentially, because it's like spent all like 6 months building all this up and I didn't even think about that. So that was actually very lucky. And yeah, that brings us to now, bro. I won't lie, it's been pretty crappy the past sort of couple weeks. I've just been, I don't know if burnt out's the right word. It just gets a bit mundane, but excitingly, heading back to China in 12 days and going to see the factory, going to see the first samples. So I feel like that's going to be the sort of the rescue that I need. And in the meantime, I'm just sort of sorting out influencer reach out. Would you believe that there are literal agencies for influencer reach out? Like, that's another frustrating thing. I thought influencer reach out would be the easiest thing. And then I do a bit of a deep dive, and it's like, there are literally people making a living of helping brands like this, like mine, reach out to influencers, which is just crazy. You think that it's not that big of a job, but then it's a massive job. Doesn't cross your mind, and that's what it's been like this whole time. But that's not a complaint, because at least I found it out before I started to waste good leads and good influences on my crappy outreaches. So, but yeah, bro, I'm almost at the top of the hill with the 3 trolleys, and hopefully once we place that order and get a bit of momentum. You know, the momentum starts to build with the content, Instagram, whatever. Now, I'm sure that there'll still be challenges. I'm not saying that there won't be, but at least it'll be hopefully earning a bit, and it maybe snowballs. I don't even know. We'll just have to see. And I know I've never actually done anything to do with, you know, social media and marketing online, but I feel like in a weird way, I'm more excited for that. I just feel like there's more room for error, and there's also more room for growth, which is going to be really cool. And spending, you know, posting every day, seeing what works, what doesn't for me, and yeah, just trial and error. And yeah, after that, hopefully we gather a little bit of a portfolio after the first launch, and then partner with a gym or something. Like that's probably the end goal for this next 6 months, so that we sort of bootstrap it and don't need, you know, mega funds and investors initially. And so yeah, as I mentioned, off to China in 12 days. It's gonna be great. Landing in Guangzhou, yes, down to my factory, and then up to Shanghai, which will be very cool. But yeah, I'm very excited to see what happens. You know, if this gym style cutlery can take off and what we can actually do with it is going to be very cool. We'll have to just see what happens. But no, it was very good to talk, bro, and I'll look forward to catching up soon. But yeah, it's been big and been up to a lot, and hope the family's going well. All right, bro, good chat, and see you soon. Bye.